to the region's only public safety talk show. It's time again for the Sheriff's Report, your weekly report from Spokane County Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich. Sheriff's Report covers a variety of public issues in Spokane County and is now in its fourth year on the air. Sheriff's Report is sponsored by River Ridge Hardware. Now, here's your host, Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich.
Well, good morning. This is Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich with the Sheriff's Report. In studio with me is my accomplice, Kent Adams, the executive producer of Spokane Talks Online. And it's been an interesting year this year.
No kidding.
We're kind of doing
in so many ways,
yes.
right? Yeah.
We're going to do a wrap-up a little bit of the year and kind of look forward to the next year, see what is in the future, things that we hope to accomplish. And whenever I have Kent on with me, I always ask him, okay, what are you hearing out on the street? What are the topics that people want to talk about or are asking about or are really concerned about? So he's written a few down, and we'll just kind of go down through the list, and I'll answer the questions you'll ask them.
All right. Good to have you here, Ozzie. And this will be the last broadcast of this year because you're headed off for some vacation. And daughter getting what now?
My daughter will graduate from the Colorado Law Enforcement Academy Friday.
Nice.
So another one of the family joins the ranks.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, we wish her the best and to be safe as well. When it comes down to it, it's pretty simple of what the top issue was this year. If you look at nationally and especially on the West Coast, but bring it in here to Spokane. And I know it was the big city issue, but it's more than just the city because you oversee the entire county, which includes the city and so forth. And it's homelessness. We call it that, but it's really more than that, isn't it?
It's much more than just homelessness.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we created the problem. I remember about 4 years ago, we really didn't have too much problems providing shelter, warming shelters and things like that for our population.
Right. But what happened?
The government leaders changed the philosophy on
Okay.
us. They went to a philosophy of a handout. Mm-hmm. We're just going to give people stuff, get them off the street.
Get them warm and a meal.
Yeah, even more than that, provide housing and things like that, with no requirements. You can still do your drugs. You can still, drink.
Right.
You don't have to go get a job. You never will end this problem unless you help people improve their lives.
Yes, that's right.
We went to a handout philosophy rather than a hand-up philosophy. And, there are so many activists out there that the minute you say that, no, folks, it is that way. And what's worse, I caution our governmental leaders,
right.
Some of these activists and some of these people that want to provide all these services, I want you to think about this, folks. They're in it for the money.
Yeah.
They're not doing it for free because they have their 501c3s or whatever.
Right.
They're raising money. They are this is how they,
and a lot of government money these days.
Exactly.
Right.
That's how they're making their money.
Right.
We have to be very careful about who we are partnering with to help solve this issue.
Right.
And the first thing we have to do is abandon this handout philosophy and go to a hand up.
Right. And honestly, Ozzie, that's the true caring for a person.
It is.
Rather than just give them a meal and a warm place to sleep on a very cold night. People say, well, we care about, the left. I'll call it what it is. The left, the Ben Stuckerts and the others around here, that's their answer. Just put them in something and get them off the street. That does not really help them.
No. What's even worse than that is the word that they like to use is compassion.
Yeah.
Ken, there is nothing compassionate about allowing somebody to shoot poison into their veins.
No.
That is more in the line of assisted suicide, but in my opinion, it's more insidious in that it is basically homicide.
Yeah.
You're actually killing these people because you're not doing anything to help them break those habits, break that cycle that they're in. And there is not enough money in the world to deal with this problem the way that they want to deal with it, which is, no accountability, no anything,
Right.
we'll just give you. And what they don't realize is there's so many facets to homelessness. You have this side, which is, you have people that is their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're not changing. This is how they live their lives. So you have that
Kind of what we
category.
saw years and years ago. The
Exactly.
hobos, the others that
Yes.
are out there, and so forth.
And that's a
There's
sad,
always going to be that.
a sad dilemma.
Yeah.
The other side is nobody talks about all these kids in foster care that age out. And at age 18, when they age out, they're booted out. And they're on
There
the
are actual
street.
programs now that are helping them at 18 if they want to be a part of
Yes.
that, to their early 20s or 25, something like that. And so we as a government and as people have finally realized that that's just kind of cruel.
It is.
To be out there on your own.
Because I don't know how many of those kids I have run into out on the street.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little different than most people. I go out and I actually walk downtown.
Right.
I talk to people. I get kind of firsthand, ground level view of it. And I don't know how many of these kids I've talked to over the years that, Sheriff, do you really think I want to be out here? Do you really think I want to be out on the street?
How do you react to that, Ozzie? Because I know you as a person, as a caring person. How does that affect you when someone says that to you?
It affects me in that I start carrying their message for them.
Okay.
And I try
Okay.
to find solutions.
Yeah.
And, quite frankly, sometimes I try to embarrass government into acting properly.
Yeah.
These kids, given the right opportunity, they have a chance to make it in life.
Yeah.
And I really think that,
And we know some people
yes,
in this community that have taken some real leadership because they were able to get help and find a family and all of that.
exactly. So, in my opinion, I think businesses, especially the trades are screaming for employees.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Why can't we develop a program like we've developed here in Spokane with the Associated General Contractors, a wonderful lady by the name of Judith Gilmore and I teamed up one day because, actually Happy Watkins, Reverend Brockins gave me a call and said, hey, we need to do something.
Yes.
So
good.
we created a apprenticeship program.
Right.
8 weeks, and you get an apprenticeship program into the construction trades. If all of the trades would start
Yes.
using that type of philosophy,
And almost all of them are hungry for
yes,
people
they
right
are.
now.
We could solve many of these issues, and instead of just handing stuff out, we actually empower. We've forgotten that word. A key word is empowerment. You don't empower people by letting them shoot up.
No.
They don't. You never are going to cure that problem. And another aspect, Ken, of homelessness that this society needs to start maybe opening their eyes just a little. We have a lot of developmentally challenged people
Yes.
in our community. The ARC does a great job with those folks and helping those folks and representing those folks. But one of the biggest challenges we're having right now is housing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you have a lot of parents that are elderly now
Yes.
that are their biggest true chilling fear is, what happens to my child
Yeah.
when I pass?
Well, and I can relate as a father of a 49-year-old Down syndrome, and he lives at home with us,
Yes.
okay? At some point, something could happen. I mean, and my wife went through an experience last week being in the hospital. Something could have happened.
Right.
And fortunately, there are enough brothers and sisters that can step in, but that's not the case
For everybody.
for everybody. Or they're somewhere else in a metropolitan area that is maybe not conducive to really helping.
Right. So if you take a look at that aspect,
Yes.
that's a growing area of homelessness that is chilling. And if you take a look at people like your son with Down syndrome, they are victimized.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the highest rates of victimization in this nation are developmentally disabled people. And we need to find better solutions. Again, we're struggling with housing in that area,
Right.
and government's not even clued into that one yet.
No.
They're still, I think, in denial. And I keep looking. We're spending all this money on people who don't necessarily want to change their
Right.
lifestyle, and you're neglecting these kids,
Right.
the foster kids. You're neglecting the developmentally disabled.
Yep.
We need to change the priorities.
Right.
And, I'm all for helping people
Yeah.
as long as you want to help yourself.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you, and I don't know if you've been able to watch some of our programs because you've been so busy and in and out of town and everything. I'm glad I don't have your schedule, okay? We've had the Union Gospel Mission on quite a bit. And just a week or two ago, I had a couple of gentlemen in here. One was probably 20 and the other was older, who has a college degree and so forth. And I was absolutely impressed with what had happened to them, to hear their story of where they were. Their family went down to get the one individual to bring them back here. The other who had visited your jail several times and so forth. And where they are now and how well they spoke, how much their lives have changed. They're not done yet. They know this is an ongoing program. Even after they graduate, there's still, the challenges ahead. But I was absolutely pleased to see the results on these two young men and what's happening. So I know it works. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it in some other organizations, and you talk about the developmentally disabled. The ARC would be a good example of a couple organizations in town and so forth. So I think we got to start reaching out and figure this thing out.
We do. And again, it's not going to be solved by just giving people things with no...
Yeah, pass a resolution
way
to spend $800,000 and I've done my job.
Yeah. Because you haven't done your job. All you've done is, pushed it to the next year because you didn't change the dynamic.
Yeah, I think we saw that loud and clear with the mayor's race. I mean, it was clear by the polls ahead of time, and it was clear to Ben before he stepped up with his prepared speech that he was going to lose and so forth. And I think if you could put the one thing that hung around him as the negative, it was the homeless issue. That he really got blamed for that, and his just house them answer to everything and so forth.
I think the council president's race also.
Yes.
That was a very, very tight race.
Yes.
And I hope that Brian paid attention to that.
I hope so too.
Because I'm tired of working, trying to deal with issues and
solve problems
and people don't want to solve the problem.
Yeah.
This jail issue, it still continues to haunt this community, and Brian, for the last 12 years, has fought me on that issue, and when he was with the Center for Justice, he would sue the county because of things that happened within the jail. And one day I looked at him and said, "When are you going to sue me for the right reason?" And he looked at me and I went, "You know what I'm talking about, Brian. You know what the true issue is here.
Yeah.
When are you going to sue me for the right reason? Because the day that you sue me for that, we fix this problem."
Yeah.
But that day never came, and we continue to talk about this situation, and we have the solution. We've had that solution on the shelf. It sits on the shelf collecting dust since 2011.
Yeah.
It's everything that the left says they're all about, but they refuse to even come to the table and implement. Why? Because their philosophy is nobody should go to jail.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
And we just arrested an individual for selling drugs.
Yeah.
The next day we arrested him for selling drugs.
Yes.
And they're still out.
I read about that.
They're
come
out.
on. Yeah.
And it's like...
And they're going to break into my car to get the money.
Yeah, well, these people aren't the ones breaking into cars. These people are selling the drugs to the people who break into your car. And these people are the ones that are selling the poison that people die from.
Yeah.
So when do we send a message that is not acceptable? When do we say that, okay, you're going to be held accountable? But I tell you, accountability is that word that is rapidly disappearing
Well, if we don't have room in
our
the,
vernacular.
if we don't have room in the jail, how about a ball and chain and put them out on the lawn in front of this county courthouse?
You can't do it.
Is it not legal, huh?
Not legal.
Doggone it. Okay. Speaking of all the challenges that men and women in our local and national uniforms that protect us every single day face, I continue to read recently more shootings of officers. Where do we stand from this last year? Are we seeing more? Are we seeing less? Pretty much the same? What kinds of shootings?
By the end of this year, we will hopefully end the year under what we were last year.
Good.
But ambush shootings are still one of the main contributing factors
Of
for
officers.
us dying, of officers dying. Ambush shootings, and ladies and gentlemen, let me explain ambush shootings to you. That means they intended to kill us. They waited for us, they laid the trap, and they killed us. 2016 was the highest that category had been since 1973, I believe it was. And the dynamics were the same. And people refuse to acknowledge that. When I started talking about that in 2016, all the media, well, Sheriff, you're actually down. And no, folks, just because we're not dying in car crashes doesn't mean our death rate went down.
Right.
We were dying at a higher rate due to ambush shootings and being shot.
Then there was the Obama administration.
Well, that was the media slant.
Yeah.
Was always against law enforcement. And they had beaten law enforcement to a pulp from August of 2014. And the leadership at every level of this country and of my profession did nothing to step up and say, folks, this is wrong. This should never happen. That should have happened in December of 2014 when the first two New York City police officers were ambushed and killed due to this radicalized hatred of police officers, all because of what happened in Ferguson, Missouri. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know the true story of Ferguson, Missouri, here's the true story. That individual, Michael Brown, attacked a police officer. At one point, had that police officer's gun pointed at the midsection of that officer. The officer was able to get his gun back. The first round went into the car door, and there was never a hands up, don't shoot. He attacked the police officer again and was shot. That is the dead facts of that situation. And you've never heard that from our national media. You've never seen that covered to the extent that they drilled the myth and the falsehood of Ferguson. And Ferguson is why we face what we face today. 7/7/2016.
What do you got? Al Sharpton and others out there still continuing to carry the message, okay?
The activists. The activists are, you have presidential candidates. That mayor from Ohio, I think it is, was asked, and he said law enforcement was inherently racist.
Yeah, right.
Really? Now, I've heard that from activist after activist after activist.
Have you asked the black
And it's
officers about that?
And I'm like, inherently? No. Now, are we immune? Well, no part of society is immune. We should be, in my opinion, but we're not.
Right.
But at the same time, when we find that type of individual, they don't survive in our ranks long.
Yeah.
And like I said, 7/7/2016, America finally opened its eyes, and it took 5 Dallas police officers being killed for America to open its eyes. And 10 days later, 3 more in Baton Rouge. And now America's starting to open its eyes. But, everybody wants to sometimes focus on what the left has done.
Right.
Because the left has done this.
Yeah.
The activists
But there are
on the left.
extremes on both sides.
But you have people on the right saying the same thing and the same rhetoric, and it's the extremes that are tearing our nation apart. And quite frankly, you know how we solve that?
How?
When we have primary elections, please vote.
Yeah.
That's the only way you get rid of the extremists, because as long as you don't vote in the primary,
They continue on.
I'll tell you who votes in the primary. People on the extremes.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. And then some of them don't show up for Hillary and other people in the general elections. But
Exactly.
You talk about officers, and you talk about the feelings out there and so forth. And one of the things I want just to chat about for a second is, and you sort of said it about the racists and so forth, is none of us are perfect.
No.
Okay. There are bad people in every industry. Sometimes, unfortunately, they have a badge, and that happens, okay? You guys, you're one of few people I know that in your positions has fired more people because you hold a standard that's very high, okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I know you do, and I think that's why you're appreciated by so many people for that honesty and that approach. It's the holiday season. We've lost officers. We'll lose officers again as we continue in 2020. How can we, as individuals in the community, thank those who are our first responders?
The easiest way is really a smile and a wave goes a long ways.
A what?
A smile and a wave.
Oh, a smile, okay.
Preferably
okay.
with all 5 fingers.
Yeah. Okay. I've always worried about, doing something that they think I'm calling them or something.
Greatly appreciated.
Is it? Okay.
And, I have citizens all the time send in attaboys.
Yes, yes.
We really appreciated how the deputy handled this situation.
Right.
Those type of things. And more importantly is to make sure that your elected leaders understand that, they're out of step with what you feel.
Right.
And it's time for them to maybe get back in step. A little bit heartwarming because I saw a poll from, I think Rasmussen did it, that America is rejecting socialism in a big way.
Yeah.
Send that message loud and clear.
Yeah.
It's failed everywhere it's been.
Of course it has.
Socialism is basically Marxism.
But we don't teach history like we used to teach. Heck, we don't teach cursive anymore. How can they read the Declaration of Independence? I mean, come on now.
The reality is there's a whole bunch of people that have those voices that are countering that Marxist socialist imprint. And if you really don't like it, then stop electing them.
We just have, I think, a little time left, about 3 minutes, and let's talk about what's coming up in the future, because we are almost at the end of the year. Can you believe I said that out loud? Here we are on the 10th of December, and of course it'll air on the radio this Saturday and so forth. But you guys have been working with, meaning the Sheriff's Department and so forth, with the Air Force here on something. And how is that going? What is that, and how is it going?
After 10 years, We finally have approval to build a small arms firing range / training center that the Air Force is going to contribute, I believe it's $15 to $18 million towards.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
will it be on their campus?
No,
no.
It's
Okay, because
going to be on county ground.
Right.
And my challenge is to make sure that I get enough votes on the Board of County Commissioners to complete that project. And this is really a no-brainer. This is a great partnership.
Right.
And we get a training center out of it. And the most important thing I do, Kent, is to train deputies and train them well.
Yes.
Because if they're trained well, they're competent.
Yes. Yes.
They're confident, and they're professional.
And it's the best way to protect me as
That's
a citizen.
Right.
Okay.
So I need to get the votes to get that done. And I swear if I was a bus driver and I wore a bus driver's hat,
Right.
I'd have tons of money.
Yeah, yeah.
But law enforcement isn't getting a lot of
Okay, so you need at
help.
least 2 of the 3?
I do.
Okay, do you have anyone pushing back?
Not yet.
Don't
Not
mention
yet.
the name out loud, but we will if they do. Okay? All right. I'll go with you and we'll talk to them because this is important. We're really running out of time, but the academy, how's that going?
We are being audited by the Washington State Training Commission, and our hope is after that audit, we will be able to put on our own academies starting in March. So that is a major plus for us because
Yes.
one of the biggest challenges that we have right now isn't recruiting because we are at full strength.
Are you? Good.
And even deeper than that, we have a lot of people that want to come to work for the sheriff's office.
Good.
One of the very few agencies in the United States that can say that we are at full staff. However, the academy is a big problem because it's 6 months before we can get people to academy. If we can do our own academies, we're going to save a bunch of money and a bunch of time.
Okay.
So we get that done, we'll be good, and I'm getting a 30-second mark.
But I want to say one thing. Please thank, number one, you, but thank all your deputies and all of your staff for protecting us in this county. We appreciate it.
I will
Thank
do
you.
so. So with that, we'll be back next year. We'll do a bunch of programming. Immigration is going to play a big role.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about some of the social issues that are facing this nation. Folks, have a great Christmas, Merry Christmas, a great New Year. This is Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich with the Sheriff's Report. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Sheriff's Report is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Sheriff's Report is sponsored by River Ridge Hardware. Ask Ozzie a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.
Hi, this is Larry at River Ridge Hardware. Just wanted the opportunity to show you a little bit about our Christmas. We have Christmas tree stands. We have ornaments that you won't find anywhere else. We have the small Christmas lights. We have the tube lights that you can run up and down. We also have a massive amount of snow shovels. Come on out and visit River